What up? Oh, man, that's like the most contrasted picture I've ever seen. What's going on, everybody? I'm gonna give it a couple minutes. People trickle in here. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since I've done a live Q&A, so I'm pretty excited about that. If you are joining in, let me know who you are. Where are you viewing from? What kind of bike you working on? What kind of bike you got? Something. But we will be going over brake fluids. Had a question from one of the this cow. One of the inner circle members who brought up the topic. He was swapping over a really nice bike he's got. He's got a ZX 1000 or something. Really awesome. Switching over from .4 to .5, and he's actually already done it, but he wanted to know, some stuff that he could run into, some issues, or if it's an issue. So I thought it'd be cool just to bring it to you guys. I wanted to catch up with, the viewers of the channel. I haven't in a while. And I would just thought it'd be cool to pop up back on here. I might try to get back into the live Q&A thing once a month. That's something that I can manage. What's going on, Jason? It has been a while, man. Yeah, I think hopping back into the live Q&A thing, because I do get a lot of questions, a lot of interesting topics that we talk about inside of the inner circle as well. For those of you who don't know about that, it is a more interactive community that people can talk with me more frequently. And there's a lot of content that goes up inside of the inner circle that can't make it to YouTube. It's more exclusive stuff, like we are rebuilding a 350 motor right now. I'm doing all kinds of cool stuff to it. I got needle bearing cam holders. I got KA slipper tensioner system going in it. Doing just crazy stuff to it just to see what it does. Like, for instance, since I got this right beside me. So these are the old rockers out of a 350, right? Those of you who may or may not know. So this is what I've done to them. I knife edged them, took a bunch of weight off, about 8 grams each. So just doing cool stuff like that. But yeah, it's a community where it's just more in depth. If they have issues with their bikes, they can talk to me. We can plan out time to talk really live, or whatever the case may be. And actually, which I'm super pumped about, the website company Kajabi, who holds all the inner circle stuff, just launched a community page, because I've had a private group on Facebook for a long time for just those members. And if you guys are like me, getting off of Facebook is more important than it is being on it. It's very time consuming. Social media by itself is. So having this community set up for people who are not on Facebook or don't want to be on Facebook or whatever, the community page is now going to be just like Facebook, but off social media. So it's pretty cool. I'm really excited about that. That got launched yesterday. So anyways, give it about 2 more minutes for people to start trickling in here. What's going on, Mike? TT Isle, Bert from Maine, 1990 Honda Pacific Coast. Interesting bike. Joe Beam from sunny Florida. Man, lucky you. My brother and my sister both live in Florida, Tampa, Florida. So, and he rubs the weather and temperature in my face every day. So lucky you. Kawasaki Voyager 1200, great big bike. Kevy Kev, dang bro, driving home from work. Wanted to say, hey, hopefully I get home in time. Hope you do too, man. Thanks for even popping in, man. You shouldn't be texting and driving anyways, but thanks for saying hey. Jason Kingston. It's got an 85 Honda Sabre with an issue. We can talk about that. So after I go over this brief topic of brake fluids, hopefully you guys find it interesting. I found it pretty interesting. I will open the floor up for you guys. We can kind of talk about any issues that you might have. So if you have a question about your bike, and you start feeding it into the comments, I'm not going to get to it until the end. But if you do, it's super helpful if you give me good information about like what kind of bike it is, that kind of stuff. That way I'm not like asking a question, waiting, asking a question, waiting. So just give me as much information. Obviously don't write a book, but maybe we can talk about something with your bike issues or something you are about to venture into. Mike, what's going on? 2016 Speed Triple. John Valencia. Just want to say thank you because you have no clue how much you've helped me. Man, that's awesome. Because of you, I got an 82 Honda Magna running and tuning it up because of you. Thank you so much. You're very welcome, John. Great job for being able to tune that up, man. I actually have a 90s Magna that I acquired that after the 350, the CL 350 build that we're doing. I don't know if you guys can see that frame back there. See that? It's got powder coated. Super excited about that. I'm working on getting the cam turned down right now, and then the motor's going back together. So after that, we'll be working on a Magna. It's pretty beat, but it's all there. And I cleaned the tank out already, but we're gonna go through it from stem to stern, front to back, and get it a fully functioning riding bike with over on the membership. It should be pretty cool. Of course, I'll take some footage from that and put it on YouTube, whatever I haven't hit already on the channel. But great job, man. Don Spencer, 87 Rebel 250. Rebuilt the car. We'll talk about that. Mike Reed. Is that Mike Reed? It is Mike Reed. What's going on, Mike? Mike's a member. This is actually a question that he brought up. Spring Hill, Florida. Mike Yamada. What's going on, everybody? I will read more of that as we dive in. So let's get started. Thank you guys for spending your time with me. Hopefully I'm not interrupting anything. Obviously, if I was, you probably wouldn't be watching. So thanks for just killing time with me as we talk about this. Again, I'm going to try to get back into a live Q&A once a month, to be determined as far as what day it will be. Probably pick Mondays because that's my designated Motorcycle MD day. Motorcycle MD day. And Mondays suck, you know? I feel like they do. So I feel like it'd be better to spice it up a little bit with a live Q&A maybe. Talk about your motorcycle. So .4, .5 brake fluids. I wrote a couple of notes down because there's some stuff that I don't want to forget. But the main thing is .4, .3, and as well as there's also a .5.1, which is also important to note, are a hydroscopic type fluid. So what that means is they can absorb and they disperse moisture throughout the system. Okay. Because of that, they need to be changed out in intervals. Honda specifically says 1 to 2 years. You can note it by color change. You can, there's a couple of factors that may speed up the process of you needing to change it out. Like if you're racing a bike or you live in the mountains and you're always going downhill, that can really heat things up. And when that brake fluid gets moisture inside of it, that's when it can start to have problems. Brake fluids are very important. Hydraulic fluids are very important because of the way that it can be compressed, the way it can transfer that energy into the braking force. So as soon as it gains moisture in the system, that boiling point goes down because your brakes are getting freaking hot in some cases, you know, and it has to be transferred throughout the fluid. So when it develops moisture, the boiling point drops, which can then cause serious problems like vaporizing inside the lines where it will develop air, right? And then you will lose your braking in a serious, obviously, anytime you lose your braking is a serious problem, but in a certain situation, air pockets can develop and you will not be able to brake, or you have a very, very spongy feel, right? .5 fluid, just .5, not 5.1. .5 is a silicone-based fluid, and it is hydrophobic. It's scared. That's the way I remember it. It's scared of water, right? Phobic, usually phobias, whatever. You get it. Those do not hold in water. They don't disperse it throughout the system, right? Another key benefit that people will probably already know, .5 fluid, silicone-based, does not, or it pretty much does not damage painted surfaces as .4, .3, .5.1 do. They will ruin plastic and paint quicker than you can say what the crap is on my tank, right? So that is a benefit of .5. To me, the benefit, we'll go over that in a minute. But anyways, so .5, it does not absorb water and disperse it throughout the system. Instead, if water is ever introduced into a .5 or like a mineral based brake fluid, like I think I had a Husqvarna one time a while back that used mineral oil. I thought it was the weirdest thing, but it's not weird apparently. So what can happen with that type of system if water ever does enter the system? Now, .4, .3, .5.1, those systems can take in water. It sounds weird, but they can take in water through the rubber. If through just the atmospheric moisture that is through humidity or whatever, can take in that water through the hose. They're not 100% sealed units. The seals in the caliper are not 100% sealed from all atmospheric effects, right? So moisture can be introduced. What was I getting at? So .5, when and if there was moisture introduced, let's say you flushed your .4 system out and you just immediately put in .5 because you wanted a better fluid, water will pool up in .5. Pool up meaning like it will not just float throughout the system. It will collect like down at the caliper, which causes corrosion, which causes vaporizing. That water, that puddles can freeze in essence. And that's what can develop corrosion through the lines, or if you're using steel braided, or if you're using like just water pooling it in the caliper itself is not good. Obviously, it can corrode. But on a dry system, so if you did want to change to a .5 fluid, my recommendation would be to replace the lines, because any system that used the .4 system is going to have moisture in it, whether it's in the rubber itself or it was in the excess fluid left over in the system that's not fully out of the system. So if you're going to use .5, you want to switch to .5, you need to replace the lines. I would, maybe with steel braided or just the OEM rubber compound, and take the caliper apart and clean it out completely, as well as the master cylinder. You have to get everything out of there for a clean transfer into .5. Now, benefits of .5, it has a higher boiling point. Okay, so it's like a 500-degree dry boiling point. Dry meaning no moisture inside the system at all. Whereas .4, I think I actually wrote it down. .4 is like a 446 degrees Fahrenheit boiling point. As soon as water starts to collect, like I said before, the boiling point drops, right? It's more susceptible to being burnt, or not burnt, boiled. I don't know where I got burnt from. So that kind of information is kind of like the pros and cons, where silicone or .5 does not need to be changed out in intervals because it never absorbs water. It can't. If it's a perfectly sealed system, it can't absorb water because it is hydrophobic. It doesn't want to do that, so it'll keep water out. But if it's ever entered into the system by whatever means, like swapping over .4 to .5 without changing any lines or anything like that, that's when the problem can occur. What I don't know is if over in a very, very long extended period of time, let's say 10 years, and you have a silicone-based brake fluid in there, if somehow moisture can get into either the top of the reservoir by means of rain, by means of, I don't know, having that system open for extended period of time, because there is moisture in the air, but it's just not going to enter into that fluid. It's going to either sit on top or sit on the bottom, usually travel to the bottom. Water's heavy, right? So that's an interesting thing that I'm not 100% sure on is, the life of a silicone base. But I do know that it is way more resilient to time, way more resilient to temperatures overall. If you were to heat it up to below its max dry effects, effects is probably the wrong word, but if you were to use it to its limit, it is just as good as it was when it was new because of that boiling point being so high and it not being able to collect that water. whereas .4 is completely different. It will go bad over time. It does collect moisture because it's designed to, but because it collects moisture, they put inhibitors in there to keep it from corroding the calipers and this, that, and the other. But on the old 70s and all those old bikes, you'll find that you do see corrosion because moisture was sat in there and it just started to do its work on the system itself. So really, generally speaking, the best or the pro between changing them out are less change intervals on .5. Okay, it won't damage your paint. I mean, Honda is not going to transfer all their bikes over into a .5 system because there's no point. I mean, it's more expensive, and they're not going to change it over because a technician or someone doesn't know how to cover a tank up and get fluid on there. It sells brake fluid. It's a business, so they're not going to transfer over, but you can. And like I said, as long as you clean the system out completely and either new lines, if you want to move to a steel braided, then that would be the time to do it. Silicone base would be more beneficial in that setting, right? But .5.1, which is a newer brake fluid, I'm not sure when it came out, but it has the same properties as .4, so it can be mixed, and it has the exact same boiling point as .5 does. So .5.1 can be mixed in. Are you super concerned about boiling points? Probably not, because you're not, unless you're living in those type of conditions I mentioned before, like up on a mountain or always heavy on the brakes, racing, something like that. You're usually probably not going to be concerned about it. But the main thing that you should be concerned about is that the brake fluid does take in moisture by itself. It doesn't have to be ran or heated up to take in moisture. It's affected by the moisture when it is heated up. That makes sense. Not talking around in circles. So it does require those 1 to 2 year intervals. Clutch fluid, I would replace sooner than your brake fluid if you do have a hydraulic clutch system, because it gets used all the time, way more than braking does. You're always pumping it up, always in use, right? And so when we do like a 24,000 mile service and we're changing out brake fluids or whatever, the clutch fluid, if the brake fluid's bad, usually the clutch fluid's a lot worse, right? That will ruin your slave cylinder, that will corrode, all that stuff. So that's my 2 cents on .4 versus .5. You can mix .4 with .3 and .5.1, but .5 cannot be mixed with anything, okay? Unless it's like a mineral-based or a silicone-based brake fluid, which are not many out there. So I think that was all I wanted to cover. Pretty sure. Separation from water, more stable. .5 is definitely more stable with temperature changes throughout its range. It lasts longer. Bottom line, .5 fluid lasts longer. So it's a definite pro, but if you want to swap it out, you're gonna have to fork out some money to get that stuff cleaned out, take apart the brakes, do all that kind of jazz. Some mineral-based oils like .2, I believe, it can affect the rubber compound of hoses. And I mean, you guys probably aren't seeing .2 all the time. I mean, so it's a very specific used hydraulic fluid. It's definitely not going to be used in motorcycles throughout the world. But it can affect the rubber seals in the caliper, the rubber hoses, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that was it. .4, .5, .4 is beneficial, .5 is beneficial. .4, it seems like .4 has more adverse effects. It's not as stable as .5 or as user friendly, because you can damage paint with it. It collects moisture and all this, but it's regardless, as long as you stay on top of it and maintenance your bike, it's a great fluid to have, and it will do its job, which is making sure you don't run into the back of somebody, or run a red light or whatever, right? So yeah, I'm trying to collect all my points that I wanted to hit. I think that's it, man. So, in the sake of not trying to keep this too long, one more important thing with .5 systems. That's what I didn't want to forget. You should not be trying to use it with a anti-lock brake system on your bike, right? Because they have certain valves, certain things that are going on that had to function fast. So let's say you get into a certain situation where you're locking up the brakes, that ABS system is trying to function, send brake energy or the pressure of braking into different areas of the bike, front and rear, trying to pulse different things. And that quick reaction causes .5 to aerate, right? So aerating means it's almost like if you were to run your motor with fresh oil in it, and then you look back inside of there, it's all full of air bubbles. It's getting aerated. On ABS style systems, it can aerate, and that would cause an issue. Obviously, your brake fluid level will drop. You may feel spongy in certain situations because you're now trying to compress air. That's why you feel a spongy brake system to begin with, because there's air in the system. And it's not supposed to be used on an anti-lock brake system unless the manufacturer says, yeah, you can use it because we use this A, B, and C. But word to the wise, if you have ABS systems, I would not change it into a .5 system because of that fact. That is a fact. All right. And it can damage the ABS, cause it to not work, cause you to lose braking. It's not cool. That's my final fact. .5 fluid is usually blue. And I think it's required to be blue or purple. And .4 and that 3 and 5.1 are amber in color. What's interesting is that sometimes, like, we obviously order bulk brake fluid at the shop, and it seems like they're either coming from different locations or whatever, but you open them up and some are like darker than others, which I find very interesting. I don't know if it's just the location it's coming from or whatever, but that's kind of an interesting fact. But let's dive into some Q&A questions. I spent about 20, 30 minutes on that topic. I don't want to drag this out too long. So I'm going to read back through here and be awkwardly silent as I read, and you guys can just stare at my face. Let's see what we got. So going down the list from the top. The workshop. Hey, dude, just started watching your videos, enjoying so far. Dude, the workshop. Bro, I actually just started. A viewer, a member of mine kind of put me on your channel. And I just started recently watching it. And, you know, I really do enjoy your channel. I do. I think for some reason I've been like really trying to dive into like mechanical engineering and like these like really cool topics that are fundamental and affect things that we deal with day to day with motorcycles. And I do enjoy your channel. I feel like there's a lot of substance there, and I appreciate you. So I've never talked to you, but I just recently, as of like last week, started looking at some of your stuff, and I do enjoy it. So what's up, the workshop? I think your name is Matt, maybe. I don't know. So let's see. 2016 Speed Triple. As you guys know, I am a Honda technician. So if you guys have anything other than Honda, I will do my best. But I've probably never worked on your bike, or your type of bikes. Speed Triple, and notice the front brake reservoir has what it looks like a cloud in it. Is this an issue? The bike has 2,000 miles on it. So you're probably talking about the inspection window, a cloud. It might look, it all depends, man, because like some windows can look like they have a bubble in it, meaning that it's probably a little bit low or above the threshold line of being full. That they want a system, but the sun really beats on those inspection windows I've found, and it fogs them up. It makes them look dirty. Sometimes dirty brake fluid from the inside can cause it to look nasty as well. So the cloudiness might just, if you've never changed the brake fluid out, I mean, it's 2016. They want it changed out. They probably want it changed out at least once or twice by that time of 2019, of it being today's date is what I mean. 2,000 miles on it. I would look inside, man. I would change it out. Okay. If it's at least 2 years old, I would change it out at least once to see what it looks like. But usually the sun bakes on those inspection windows, and they're cheap. inspection window glass or plastic, whatever they use, plexi, I don't know. And it can turn them foggy. On really old bikes, it almost cracks and they can leak. It's kind of scary. Don Spencer, 1987 Honda Rebel 250, rebuilt top of carb, but still leaking. You think I should switch over to a dual carb system? No. No, I don't think you should. And I'm a little confused about you rebuilding the top of carb. Because if there's a leak issue, it's going to be at the bottom where the float valve is and that kind of stuff. But I don't think you should switch over to dual carb. I think you're better off hitting yourself in the head with a hammer, trying to route all that and make it fit and deal with double the amount of stuff that's going on. When it's not going to improve anything. It's not going to make it faster. I would just keep it single carb, man. And I can't say it's probably not going to make it faster because someone's out there's probably done something that I've never heard of, but I wouldn't do it. I would just buy something bigger, like a CM400 or something. Yeah. I would rebuild the bottom of the carb if it's still leaking. That's my answer to that. Kev, still parked, man. Never text and drive. That's what's up, man. Good for you. Excuse me. Let's see. Keith from New England. Wait. N-E-O-K from NE. I don't know what that is. My geography is horrible. 05 Honda Shadow Arrow rebuilt myself for my 56th birthday. Ice cream storm tomorrow. Ice storm tomorrow. Sucks. Facebook sucks, hairy balls. Right on. Okay. Workshop. Just want to ask you if you want to do a collab at some point on any subject you see fit. I would absolutely love to do a collaboration with you. Hit me up through here. Shoot me an email. I would love to do something with you, man. That'd be cool. I'm down for whatever. Rome. I know this is off topic, but let me ask you this. My motorcycle just cut off. It just cut off, and I had no power at all, no lights, nothing, just dead. I pulled over on the side, and everything popped back. 95 Harley. The first thing I would check is the battery connections, because nothing's blown. You didn't blow a main fuse. Nothing is crazy with that. All power comes from the battery, and if everything shut off, that's the first thing that I would check. All lights, everything. Yeah. If you recently put a battery in, battery cables loosen up on batteries, man. Bottom line, there's no way around it. So I would check that first. Make sure they're nice and tight. Devin Reed, yo, I made the feed. What's going on, Devin? Jason Kingston, did you message me earlier? Yeah, if you have time to answer this question, I have an 85 Honda V65 Sabre 1100. Anything special that I need to know about the bike? Pretty cool bikes. They were scary bikes. And you wrote earlier, the bike ran off starting fluid before I took out the parts and cleaned the dirtiest carbs I've ever seen in my life. Thanks to your videos. I appreciate it. Just want to know about any issues with that. I'll tell you some things I don't like about that bike. The suspension is subpar. So be mindful of the air transfer system. If I think that one has like an air transfer system in the top of the forks, it's kind of a pain. Don't use 100 PSI to blow those things up. Use a bike pump or something small. But air pressure does affect those front forks. And if it's not there, it can handle like a turd, as if it already does. But I think that system also had like a split ignition system. So just be mindful of that. And they actually mounted them, if I can remember right, they mounted them on the left side of the bike by where the battery and that stuff is. And they mounted them upside down. So where the harness plugs into it, they mount it like that. And what I've seen on one was it actually filled with water because it wasn't like fully sealed. And this was like some ignition unit that they used back when they split all that stuff up. Instead of just making one nice ECU, they started splitting up ignition to this, to that, to this. And it was caused problems. But I saw one fill up with water. And honestly, the fix was I put it out in the sun. I dried it out, put it out in the sun on a nice day, and sealed it back up, and it worked fine. Never seen the guy again, and it seemed to be working okay. But I've seen those fill up with water, which is really weird. So when you're washing your bike, just be mindful of where that's located. Maybe seal it up if you could, or just be mindful of it. I've seen those fail, and they're made of unobtainium, which you can't find any of those parts new unless someone's going to ask a lot of money for them on eBay or something. But it's probably not going to be new. The 80s, like I've always said, the 80s were a very funky year, and it's very hard to find parts for all of those bikes. The slave cylinders, be mindful of the clutch fluid that's in there. If you can buy a brand new slave cylinder, I would. They're usually toast by that point, being now, because no one maintenance them right. But other than that, man, they are a fun bike. They're pretty scary. Like I've ridden scary meaning like they got a lot of power in them, man. And on a bike that feels skinny, and those things will get up and go, and it's kind of cool. So other than that, charging systems are okay. I haven't ran into any problems with those yet. I'm sure they're out there though. But yeah. So what else we got? Jose, thanks for joining in, man, from Arizona. Does HD use .5? I think they do. Mike Rita, I believe they do use .5. What about .5 in a hydraulic clutch? I'm going to say, yeah, as long as you do like what I was talking about, make sure the system is brand new. So rebuilding the master cylinder so it's dry when you go in, new hoses, new slave cylinder to get all that stuff out of there. I think you'll be totally okay with that system. It shouldn't be affecting any of the seals. 81 Kawasaki 440 LTD Classic. Should I change my brake fluid at the beginning of the next season due to sitting over winter? Yeah. Why not? If you don't know the last time that you've changed it, I would change it out. Right? I mean, it's always good to start off a season right, you know. And if it's not too difficult, I would change it out. It's not that expensive to do. And you won't have to worry about it probably until the end of the season next time, right? So ever you can get on like a 1 year schedule, I would do it at the beginning of the season for sure. Workshop as for the life of .5, it's about the same as .4. The issue is the molecules breaking down due to the thermal cycles and just compression. Great information, man. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much. I think I was reading somewhere in the interwebs where as long as it's like sealed, perfectly sealed, it can have a longer life. But you may know more about the topic than I do. So it sounds like what you're suggesting is change it out regularly like the .4, which is interesting. I can't disagree with that. So Spotter Moose, let's see, it's about 8:04. We'll probably do about 10 more minutes. Not brake related. How many hours work for a completed? Hi, not brake related, but how many hours of work for a competent mechanic to do a valve job on the front cylinder of an 89 XV 1100 V twin? Let me look at it real quick. I need to see what that motor looks like. XV 1100 V twin. I don't know labor rates on those, but I can look at it and see. Okay, it's like the okay. honestly, and usually on V twin motors, in order to access the front or change or adjust the front, you have to have the rear. At least this is for Honda. So you have to have the rear cylinder stuff off as well, or valve inspection stuff off as well. Sometimes you got to look at the cam markings to make sure that you're lined up in the right order. Okay, so if this one is here, then that means this one should be here, and you need to be able to verify that on some V twins. A lot of times that has more to do with cam timing, but I'm not sure if they do it like that. Otherwise, I would say a safe bet, probably didn't take the tank off. I'm not sure what's exactly on top of that valve cover. It doesn't look like there's any radiator in front of it. I would say maybe 2 to 4 hours. 2 being just 1, maybe 4. It really all depends, but I couldn't see it being more than that. It's not like you're working with like a ST1100. And if it's a tap-it style adjustment, it could be done right there and just not needing to pull the cam. What I don't know is if it's a shim under, shim over type system, which if it does need to be adjusted, the cam has to be pulled, which can oftentimes double or triple the labor rate. So that's all depending on just looking at it. That's my suggestion. Mike Reed .5, great for leaky vintage bikes. He has solved his issue. Ari being really funny about hair pomade. Works up, yeah, dude, it's Matt. Kevin did the video and he put me onto you. Really dig what you're doing. Great to see someone getting straight to the point. What do you know? The same dude brought us together. That's awesome. Cool. Turkey baster for sucking out old fluids. Absolutely. I use one. Where is it at? Boom. I got this metal one, and it came with like a metal tip. Awesome. That's what I use. Squeak, squeak. Let's see. Finding Don Spencer back on the Rebel. Finding a carburetor for that classic 87 is very, very difficult, let alone. Absolutely. I don't disagree with you, but you got to figure out why it's leaking. I wouldn't just give up on it yet. I would let someone look at it, or you look at it and really, really, really kind of dive in as to exactly why it's leaking. Is it the float seat? Is the float seat deteriorated? Is the float needle bad? Would polishing up the seat of that float needle be good? Would that solve the issue? Is your float level right? Is the needle tip seat needles float needle tip worn? You know, there's a lot of small details in that carb that have to be perfect for it not to leak. It's not necessarily a bad carb. It's just, it needs to be cleaned better. Steve doing a collaboration with the workshop will be great. It's got to happen now. I mean, we've already talked about it. It's got to happen. John Blackburn, HID versus LED. In Virginia, HID is illegal for state inspections. So LED is not, because they're putting LEDs in all of the new bikes. So if your state does not require HID, then great. It's super bright. My biggest problem with HID is that it requires so much stuff just to make it function. I mean, right? You got to have like all these different connectors, harnesses, these extra packs, these. It's like it goes through like 10 different stages to get the HID to work, and I just don't like it. There's just too much going on, and it looks ugly. It's hard to place the stuff right. It's very bright. Great for blinding the person coming your way, you know, but the LED system is just easier. It takes less, it's easier to install, and it's starting to pass state inspection when it comes to states that do that. I know I'm in the Commonwealth, and it's just the way it is here, right? But yeah, so all new bikes are coming out with LED systems, so I like LED. I have LED in my old CL 450. Front and rear headlight is LED, so I like it. All right, let me try to get through this list. There's not much more. You guys are awesome for hanging out, man. 40 people in here. That's what's up. Like I said, I will be trying to get more on a monthly basis with this. Do at least once a month. Get back in touch with you guys. I appreciate it. Just how much the channel has grown. I'd like to put out more stuff, but like I said, I'm spending a lot of time in the inner circle because those guys, that whole community is tight now, and I'm just working with them and helping them out. You know, they're important to me. So, and I'm also putting out, you know, twice as much content. I'm going to try to do a video every Monday for the inner circle. I have tons of stuff on motor rebuilds. I have tons of stuff on just all kinds of different things just random stuff that I get way more in depth on. It's a lot more free. It's not so YouTubey like, hey, welcome to MotoMD. It's way more. I'm trying to think of the word. Why can't I think of the word that I need? Intimate is a little weird. I don't want to use intimate as a word, but I guess it is. Yeah, it's probably the wrong word to use. But Dave, is it true you trying to hook up an oil injection pump on your 450 to make? No, it's not true. Dave's a good friend of mine. What's up, man? Love the channel. Help from Robert. Helped me a lot with my 01 Shadow Spirit 750. Awesome. Working on a C72 CO450 clutch lever sticks. Doesn't disengage clutch when pulled in, making it hard to shift gears. Working on a 72 450 clutch lever sticks. Doesn't disengage the clutch when pulled in, making it hard to shift gears. Right. So there's a number of things down the line with that. I would look at the cable, make sure the cable's good. Probably is. That whole adjustment system down on the left plate where the cable goes into, very, very crucial to get that right. If you have a manual, follow the instructions on how you take all the free play out, or you give the top handle all of the free play, then you make your adjustment down at the case. And then once you get that free play proper down at the case, then you can make a small adjustment up top. I would make sure that's good. Make sure that that whole system is, because as you apply and you pull that lever down, if you know what I'm talking about, you're pushing out a piston, so just to make sure that's functioning correctly. The rod that runs through there is important. It's probably fine because it's just a solid rod. Other than that, I would look on the clutch side. Has the clutch been rebuilt? Is the clutch sticking? Is the clutch completely smoked and it's seized and the plates are all warped and now it's taking up all the free play and locking? Literally, what's cool about the old bike is that you can take the stuff off and you can visually see what's going on, right? Take that cover off on the right side, pull so you can access and see what the clutch is doing. Function the clutch. Visually see what's going on. That's what I would recommend for that. There's a lot of stuff down the line that can go wrong, but it's a pretty simple system once you understand it. Annie Dixon. I did not mean to say your last name like that. I thought it was Dickinson. So, Annie Dixon. Hey, Cody. Annie from Manitoba, Canada. 1997 Valkyrie Tour. Pisses fuel out the drain hole on left bank exhaust. I'm trying to think of where that is. Pisses fuel out. Drain hole. Left bank exhaust. Out of the exhaust? So, something's flooding out. So, I mean, if it's entering into the exhaust system whatsoever, and it's on the side stand or whatever, it's because all the fluid's going to the left side, or not all of it, but it's now going from here to like this. Float level is going to be crucial. I don't think that the Valkyries are adjustable. It might be, but make sure that the floats are seating is what I would suggest you lift up the left side of the carbs, make sure that all the floats are seating properly. Can a speedometer be lubricated? I have a 84 gold wing that squeals when it's cold. Oh, I don't know. Usually they're sealed units. You can try to squirt something up through where the cable goes in. It's maybe some silicone and see if that changes anything. I can't say for sure that they're like you can undo it and then grease everything back up. Probably not, but I would try. I would try to squirt something up through there. That wouldn't hurt too much. Just don't do like a lot, and don't have it upside down and start filling it up, because you might see oil spots all on the inside of that tack. Yeah. CB Cafe, hey man. All right, this is the last one. Hey man, squeaky front brake on my 76 CB. It squeals lightly when riding. Should I be worried or do a rebuild before riding again? Very, very common for those to squeal. Very common. If you ever take apart the caliper, I would take it apart and clean it out and just make sure that it's clean. It may not solve your issue, but it's important to clean that out. What you're looking for is on the 750s. I believe it's a 750, 76 CB, maybe. Actually, it all depends if you have a 750 or not. If you do, then there's a certain like a plastic bushing or washer that kind of sits inside of the piston to keep down vibration. Make sure that a lot of times, obviously you can't get factory pads for them as often as you could before. The aftermarket ones are made of a different compound. Sometimes they're harder, sometimes they're softer, and it causes an excessive squeak. What I've seen people do is on those single pistons. So let's say this CB350F intake boot from the airbox is a piston inside your caliper. What I've seen people do is, you might have seen there like a waffle that kind of sits on the outside, held in by a pin. On the older 750s, you can take some very, very light grease. It sounds crazy, but it works. Some light grease and just put it on the very, very inside of that piston. So on the backing side of it and on the very, very edges of it. Don't allow it not to contact, and make sure it's a brake fluid that can withstand, or not brake fluid. Make sure it's a grease that can withstand a very, very high temperature, so it doesn't bleed out onto the brake pad itself. But on the very, very back side of it, I would try some very, very thick grease. Not a lot. Don't cake it all in there and squirt it in, but just coat that, or maybe coat the inner wall of the where it sits inside the caliper. I've seen that solve that issue on the squeaky brake. But yeah, that's it, guys. This is about almost an hour, or almost 50 minutes. But like I said, we'll try to do this once a month. Thank you guys for hanging out. I don't have anything crazy going on other than the Inner Circle membership. Like I said, a new community section just got launched. If you're interested in that, I'm going to leave a link in the description of what the Inner Circle is all about, if you want to get involved in that. Otherwise, next video coming out, I'm going to finish up one on a regulator rectifier issue that I ran into on a 1100, on a newer 1100, and I wanted to show you guys what a bad regulator rectifier does, and what it looks like as far as a meter, like reading it and probing it, not really testing it by itself, but what it will show in the system if it is bad. That'll be coming out probably this week for sure. But yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thank you for being a viewer. Thank you for all the encouragement everybody gives me. You guys are just awesome. I've been really blessed to have this channel and be able to put out the content that I can. Like I said, twice as much content goes out inside the membership. If you really want to fix your bike and dive in and seek some help, where I can kind of be beside you with it, the membership might be something you want to look into. It's a lot more fruitful, I feel like, as far as a general YouTube video versus let's really break this thing down and get it fixed. So with that said, whoa, that's what happens when your voice dries out. With that said, you guys take care. Hope my videos are helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, try to shoot me an email. I'll get to it as soon as possible. I try to check emails Monday, Thursdays, and sometimes on the weekends, but I try to take off on the weekends. All right. So y'all are awesome. Be on the lookout for a huge time-lapse video of the CL350 build that I'm doing. Motor's going to go back in and back together, and then we're going to rip that thing. It's going to be awesome. Got a lot of cool parts in it. So till next time, you guys ride safe, please. And thank you guys so much for just spending your time with me tonight. I'm going to go home, eat some dinner, see my wife. Until next time, see you guys later.